The call came while I was sitting in the doctor's waiting room. My phone buzzed, and when I saw my daughter's name, Angela, I smiled automatically. But her voice was cold, stripped of warmth. "Mom, we're going on a trip to Europe tomorrow. I already sold your beach house and your car. We needed the money. Bye." Then, silence. No explanation, no hesitation, just the sharp click of disconnection. I sat frozen, my phone still pressed to my ear. After 45 years of raising her, sacrificing every piece of myself, that was how she discarded me, like an inconvenience. But instead of crying, I felt something unusual, calm. Because Angela had no idea who I truly was or what her father had left behind. My name is Antonia Brooks. I'm 71 years old, a widow for 6 months. My husband, Robert, died suddenly of a heart attack one morning as we had breakfast, our quiet ritual for 45 years. That morning he kissed my forehead and said, "Good morning, my love." Those were his last words. For months after, Angela had visited often, helping with the funeral, bringing groceries, checking on me. I thought it was love. Now I realized it was convenience. The beach house she sold was our sanctuary, the heart of our family. Robert and I bought it when Angela was 15. Every summer we filled it with laughter, birthdays, and family dinners by the ocean. The old pickup truck she sold, Robert's treasure, still carried his scent. He had washed it every Sunday, cared for it like his child. She knew what it meant to me, and yet she sold it as if it were nothing. When I got home from the clinic that day, I remembered something. An envelope Robert had given me 3 days before he died. "Put this away, Antonia," he had said. "Open it only when you're ready." In the chaos of grief, I'd forgotten it existed. Now, trembling, I opened my dresser drawer. The manila envelope lay exactly where I'd left it. Inside were legal documents, property deeds, bank certificates, and a letter, written in Robert's familiar handwriting. "My dear Antonia," it began, "if you're reading this, I am gone. Forgive me for keeping secrets, but I wanted to protect you from worry. Over the years, I invested our savings in properties and companies. We don't just own the beach house, we have 6 other properties, including the apartment building where Angela and Edward live. We also hold shares in 3 companies worth more than you can imagine. You are rich, my love. You always were, but now it's written on paper. I've placed everything under a company name you don't know, Robert Investments Incorporated. You are its sole heir. Use it wisely." Tears blurred the ink as I read. Robert, my quiet, steady bus driver husband, had built an empire in silence. He had multiplied every dollar we'd saved and never once boasted about it. He'd done it for me, for us, for Angela. And now she had thrown me aside, unaware that the woman she'd robbed was the legal owner of the very building she lived in. The next morning, Angela called again. Her tone was polite, almost cheerful. "Mom, we already transferred your share from the sales into your account. It's not much, but it'll help you get by." "My share?" I asked. "Yes, 30%. That's fair, right? We needed the rest for our investment in Europe." How generous, I thought. 30% of my own property. That afternoon, I watched from my window as Angela and her husband Edward loaded their luggage into a cab. They were laughing, full of excitement for their new life. The next morning, I called Mr. Peterson, the lawyer who had managed Robert's small affairs. When I showed him the documents, his eyes widened. "Mrs. Brooks, your husband was a very intelligent man. Everything here is legitimate. You are indeed the sole owner of all these assets. The sale of your beach house, however, was illegal. Your daughter had no right to sell it." "Can we get it back?" I asked. "Yes, we can. And you could press charges against her for fraud." I smiled. No, Mr. Peterson. No charges. I want to do this quietly, my way. I want to reclaim everything, but she mustn't know I'm behind it. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. Understood. When I left his office, I felt alive again. For months, I had drifted in grief and loneliness, but now I had a purpose. I wasn't the helpless widow my daughter imagined. I was the woman Robert had believed in, a woman capable of rebuilding her world. That night, as I sat by the window, I looked up at the stars and whispered, "Robert, I found your secret. And don't worry, my love. I'll handle this the way you would have, patiently, wisely, and without hate. But she will learn." The following weeks passed in quiet precision. Outwardly, I played the role of the poor, pitied widow. My neighbors stopped by with casseroles, sympathy, and that tone people reserve for the recently broken. I thanked them all politely. None of them knew that every night, after they went home, I sat at the same kitchen table with Robert's documents spread around me, planning my next steps. Mr. Peterson worked fast. Within 2 weeks, he had successfully nullified the fraudulent sale of the beach house. The buyers had no idea. He told me over the phone. They've been refunded, and the property is legally yours again. Excellent, I said, though a part of me ached. Angela had told people I was very ill and desperate for money. She'd used my supposed frailty to justify selling everything I owned. How easily she had turned me into a helpless figure in her story. Mr. Peterson explained that the apartment building Angela and Edward lived in was technically under my ownership through Robert's company. We just need to make some administrative changes to transfer direct control to your name, he said. It'll take a few more weeks. Good, I told him, but keep everything discreet. I don't want them to suspect a thing. I didn't hear from Angela for nearly a month. Then, one evening, my neighbor Aurora stopped by. "Antonia, did you hear? Edward's in trouble with the bank. He took out huge loans and they're discovering the apartment isn't really his. Angela's name is on some of the papers, too. She might have to come back from Europe to sort everything out." I nodded slowly, hiding my satisfaction. "That's unfortunate," I murmured, stirring my tea. Inside, I could almost hear Robert's calm laugh. Everything was unfolding exactly as he'd have planned it. Slowly, surely, inevitably. A week later, Mr. Peterson called again. "Your daughter just arrived back in the country, Mrs. Brooks. Alone. It seems her husband stayed behind." "Perfect," I said softly. "Send the letter." He hesitated. "You're certain about this?" "Completely." The letter was an eviction notice, served by Robert Investments, Inc., the company Robert had named after himself. Angela had 30 days to vacate the apartment she thought was hers. I didn't want revenge. I wanted clarity. She needed to understand that every cruel word she had said to me, every selfish act, had consequences. 2 days later, the phone rang. "Mom!" Angela's voice was trembling. "I got a strange letter yesterday. It says I have to leave my apartment in 30 days. There must be some mistake. An eviction notice." "How odd," I said lightly. "From whom?" "From a company called Robert Investments. Do you know it?" I paused, letting the name hang between us. "No, dear. I've never heard of them. Are you sure it's legitimate?" "I don't know." "Mom, please, I don't have anyone else to talk to. Can I come see you?" "Of course," I said softly. "Come whenever you want." When Angela arrived the next day, I barely recognized her. Her expensive clothes looked rumpled, her eyes were red, and her confident posture had vanished. She stood in my doorway like a lost child. "Mom," she whispered. "Come in, honey," I said gently. "Would you like some coffee?" She nodded, sinking into a chair. "Edward left me," she said finally. "He ran off with another woman in Paris. There was no business trip, just debts. So many debts, Mom. He used my name for some of them. Now I'm being threatened with lawsuits, and then this eviction notice. I don't even know where to start." Her voice cracked, and for a brief moment, I felt my heart ache. She was my daughter, my blood, the same little girl who once brought me wildflowers from the beach. but I also remembered the call from that cold afternoon in the clinic, her voice detached and cruel. We needed the money. Bye. What are you going to do? I asked quietly. I don't know. I thought maybe I could stay here for a while, just until I get back on my feet. I looked at her, truly looked at her, and saw not the woman she had become, but the woman she could still be. Of course, honey, I said finally. This will always be your home. She stared at me as if she didn't believe it. After everything I did, you're my daughter. That will never change. She broke down and hugged me, her tears soaking my shoulder. I held her, not with the same blind love as before, but with the calm control of a woman who understood that forgiveness could also be power. That night, after she went to bed, I called Mr. Peterson again. It's time for the next step, I said. What do you need, Mrs. Brooks? I need you to investigate Edward's debts and every document he signed under my daughter's name, quietly. Understood, he replied. As I hung up, I poured myself a small glass of wine. For the first time since Robert's death, I felt him near me, not in sadness, but in quiet approval. Our daughter had finally come home. Now she would learn. Angela moved back into her old bedroom the next day, bringing only 2 suitcases and a cardboard box. Watching her unpack filled me with a strange mix of pain and satisfaction. She looked smaller somehow, stripped of the arrogance she once wore like perfume. The woman who had treated me like a burden was now humbled, lost, and frightened. Yet, I didn't gloat. I only observed. While she cleaned the room, she found a manila envelope among her belongings. Mom, this was in Edward's suitcase, she said, and has your name on it. My pulse quickened. Robert's handwriting again, neat and deliberate. But this envelope was smaller than the first. I opened it in front of her. Inside was a short note and a small silver key. The letter read, My dear Antonia, if you are reading this after finding the main envelope, it means our daughter is going through a difficult time. The key opens safety deposit box number 247 at the downtown bank. There is something inside that can help you help her. But use it wisely. Angela's eyes widened. Dad had a safety deposit box? What could be in it? I have no idea, I lied smoothly. He never mentioned it. We should check, she said eagerly. Tomorrow, I replied. It's late. That night she insisted on cooking dinner. Her first attempt in years. The food was edible, but heavy with guilt. She talked about Edward's betrayal, the debts, and how she felt her entire world had collapsed. I listened silently, hiding the flicker of pity that rose inside me. It wasn't time yet. She needed to reach the bottom before she could rise again. The next morning, we went to the bank. The clerk verified my ID, unlocked box 247, and handed me a small velvet case. Inside lay jewelry, rings, necklaces, bracelets, earrings, all glinting under the sterile light. I recognized some of the pieces. They had belonged to Robert's mother. Others were unfamiliar, new, expensive. Angela gasped. Mom, this is worth a fortune. I read the note inside. These jewels are for emergencies only. They carry the history of our family. Guard them with care. Angela's mind was already racing. We could sell them, Mom. This money could solve everything. You could get the beach house back, and I could pay Edward's debts. Her words stung. Even now, she thought first of repairing Edward's mess. Are you sure you want to use your father's inheritance for that? I asked. What other choice do I have? She said. If I don't pay, they'll seize everything. I said nothing. I let her decide. Over the next few days, she met with jewelers and collectors, negotiating like someone clinging to her last hope. When she finally came home with a thick envelope of cash, she looked both relieved and defeated. $180,000, she said, placing the money on the kitchen table. It's less than I hoped, but enough to cover the most urgent debts. Are you sure you want to do this? I have no choice, Mom. As she spoke, I couldn't ignore the irony. She was trying to save herself from losing a house that already belonged to me, selling jewelry that Robert had left to protect us. Life was poetic that way, teaching lessons through circular pain. That night, Mr. Peterson called. "Mrs. Brooks, I've completed the investigation. Edward's debts exceed $200,000. He falsified documents with your daughter's signature. Legally, she's responsible, but with this evidence, we can prove fraud. She could be cleared." "Do whatever it takes," I said, "but don't tell her anything until it's finished." "Understood." The following weeks were a strange theater. Every morning I watched Angela sort through bank papers, call creditors, and pace the house with sleepless eyes. The woman who once sneered at responsibility was now facing it head-on. She learned to budget, to cook, to walk to the store instead of driving. One afternoon, she came home exhausted but proud. "Mom, I got a part-time job cleaning offices at night. It's not much, but it's honest work." I looked at her. The same woman who once mocked my simple ways and felt both pride and sorrow. "Are you sure you can handle that kind of work?" "I'll have to," she said softly. "I can't keep being your burden." When she left for her first shift, Aurora came by with curiosity sparkling in her eyes. "Antonia, everyone's talking about how your daughter's changed. She's humble now, quiet. What happened to her?" "Life happened," I said simply. Aurora studied me. "You know, I used to think you'd never forgive her for what she did. But maybe this is better than revenge. She's learning." "She's not done learning yet," I said, more to myself than to her. Angela returned late that night, her clothes smelling faintly of cleaning products. She smiled weakly. "It was hard, Mom, but it feels good to earn something again." I hugged her. This time it wasn't an act. For the first time in months, my heart softened without calculation. She was finally growing, not because I rescued her, but because she had to save herself. The transformation in my daughter was slow but real. The woman who once lived for luxury now woke up before sunrise to catch the bus. She cleaned offices at night, cooked simple meals, and saved every penny. I often found her sitting at the kitchen table with a calculator, organizing bills, her brow furrowed in concentration. She had begun to change not because I demanded it, but because life had left her no other option. One evening, as she sorted through a pile of paperwork, she sighed. "Mom, I went to 3 job interviews today. 2 rejected me because of the pending lawsuits, and the 3rd offered me the night shift cleaning offices. It's hard, but at least I'll earn something." "You're handling this better than I expected," I said softly. She smiled tiredly. "I'm not the same woman who left for Europe. I can't be." When she left for her first shift, I called Mr. Peterson. "How much longer until everything is ready?" "Just a few more weeks," he replied. "We've gathered enough proof of Edward's fraud to clear Angela's name entirely. She won't owe a single cent." "Good," I said. "When it's done, I'll tell her everything." During the following weeks, I watched Angela struggle, but also rebuild herself. She walked everywhere, learned to live with less, and spoke with humility I'd never heard before. Aurora, ever the observant neighbor, visited one afternoon and said, "Antonia, I've been watching your daughter. She's different now. When she talks to you, there's respect, gratitude. She's learning what she lost." Aurora was right. Every night Angela came home exhausted but with a new kind of dignity in her eyes. She often talked about a co-worker named Mrs. Johnson, a 60-year-old cleaner who had taught her small tricks to work faster. She told me something today that stuck with me. Angela said one evening while making tea. She said there are 2 kinds of people who end up in this job. Those who never had chances and those who wasted theirs. I told her I was the second kind. What did she say? She said that means I'm already 1 step ahead because I know exactly why I'm here. I smiled. She sounds wise. She is, Angela said. And she made me realize something. For the first time in my life, I'm earning my peace. Every dollar, every meal, every bit of rest, I'm earning it. A few days later, Mr. Peterson called again. "Mrs. Brooks, everything's complete. Your daughter's debts are officially cleared. She's legally free." "Perfect," I said. It's time she learned the truth. I told Angela we were going to meet a lawyer who might help with her legal situation. She looked nervous as we arrived at Mr. Peterson's office. He greeted us kindly and handed her a folder.
Miss Brooks, these documents confirm that you were the victim of fraud. You are no longer responsible for any of the debts your husband left behind.
Angela blinked rapidly. But how? Who paid for all this?
I looked at her and took a deep breath. I did.
Her eyes widened. You? But how? Show her the other folder, Mr. Peterson, I said. He placed a thick stack of papers before her. Property deeds, bank statements, investment documents, all under my name. She stared at them in disbelief. Mom, this says you own the building I lived in. And several other properties. And wait, you're the owner of Robert Investments? Yes, I said calmly. Your father left it all to me. I've known since the day you called to tell me you sold my house. Her face went pale. You knew? You knew all this when I came back, broken, desperate? Why did you let me suffer? Because you needed to learn what I couldn't teach you with words, I said quietly. You needed to learn what it means to lose everything and rebuild. To understand the value of work, respect, and love. When you sold my house, you didn't just take property. You took dignity. I couldn't give it back to you until you understood what it meant. Angela began to cry, not with shame, but with a deep, shaking grief. You watched me hit rock bottom, she whispered. Yes, I said, and I was there every step of the way to make sure you'd rise again. Mr. Peterson cleared his throat gently.
Miss Brooks, your mother has also settled every legal cost.
You're free. Financially and legally. Angela looked at me through tears. I don't deserve this. No one ever does, I said softly. Forgiveness isn't something we earn. It's something we grow into. We left the office in silence. On the drive home, Angela finally said, Even if you had nothing, Mom, I would have learned the same lesson. You showed me what real love looks like. The kind that doesn't rescue but restores. Over the next few months, Angela kept working at her cleaning job, even though she no longer needed to. I need to finish what I started, she explained. It's not punishment, it's purpose. She began saving money to return to school for social work. I want to help women who go through what I did. She said one evening, her eyes bright with determination. 6 months later, she was accepted into a master's program. I decided to use part of Robert's fortune to create a foundation to support women recovering from financial and emotional abuse. Together, we turned the beach house into a temporary shelter for those who needed safety and a fresh start. One evening, as we sat on the porch overlooking the ocean, Angela said quietly, Mom, I finally understand. True love doesn't tell you what you want to hear. It teaches you what you need to learn. I reached for her hand. That's what your father wanted us to know all along. The waves rolled in gently, the sky turning gold. For the first time in years, I felt complete. I hadn't just regained my family. I had rebuilt it on truth, strength, and respect. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment to tell me where you're watching from. I love hearing your thoughts and stories. Thank you for supporting these true life stories. See you in the next one.